Okay, so today's lesson, we're using intercepts to graph lines. Basically what that means, a line, when it goes through the x and y axis, that's called an intercept. So we're going to use a y-intercept and an x-intercept. So example number 1, so in the box of your example number 1, you're going to put 3x plus 2y equals 6. Now, what I want you to know, your note sheet is not dividing it for the variables. You're going to write the equation once on the left side of the line and write the equation once on the right side of the line. And I'm going to tell you how we're going to do that. So make sure you write small. If you write large like I do, write just a little bit smaller. So our directions tell us, for the following equation, determine the value of x when y equals 0. So we're going to determine the value of x when y equals 0. So we're going to do that on this side. Then we're going to go back through and we're going to solve the equation and find the value of y when x equals 0. And then we're going to write each answer as an ordered pair. So we're doing a lot of steps for one question. But the great thing is, you guys know how to do all these steps already. There's nothing new that you're learning here today besides setting your y equals 0 and your x equals 0. You guys know how to solve for equations. You guys know how to set ordered pairs. So you're going to be just fine. So the first thing that I'm going to do, every single time that I use intercepts to graph, I'm going to set for y equals 0 first. So I'm going to write that up very first. So y equals 0 on my left side, and I'm going to write at the very top. And then on my right side, I'm going to go straight in and put x equals 0 so I don't forget. So there I'm setting my y equals 0 because I'm going to solve for what? X. So then on my right side, I'm setting x equals 0 because I'm going to solve for y. Okay, so we're going to start with part A. We're going to find the value of x when we substitute y equals 0. So I'm using this equation, 3x plus 2y equals 6. So I'm going to take 3x plus 2 times y. Well, what's my y? 0 equals 6. Okay. Now, just like when we did solving equations, we're going to circle our variable, and we're going to draw our line of equality. And I'm going to start to solve. I want to get the x by itself. But before I do that, I have to combine like terms. Well, 2 times 0 is like term because they're the same. What is it? Because it's 0, I'm not going to write out 3x plus 0. Because I know 2 times 0 is going to be 0, all I'm going to do here, scratch it out. I'm done with that.
Is that a 0 or is that an x inside of 0?
Sorry, that's an x. That's circled. That's a good question. So I substituted 0 for my y. So now I have a one-step equation. I basically just have 3x equals 6. Well, how do I get the x by itself? That's correct. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So the variable that I'm bringing down is what? X equals, what's 6 divided by 3? 2. Now that's not my answer. Because now I need to write my answer in an ordered pair. My ordered pair is made up of what 2 variables? A and y. So we found what our x value is. What's our x equal? 2. And what was our y value for this side?
0.
So that's my first answer. So I'm going to box it. Your ordered pair. Okay? I'll let you get there in just a minute. I want to talk through this one again. So now I did part A. It is, Michael. It's a lot of work. You're right. So now we're going to come to part B. Part B, we use the same equation, except for this time we're solving for y when x equals 0. So I have what I'm substituting right here because I already wrote it. I have x equals 0. So I'm going to use the equation 3 times x. Well, what do I substitute for x? 0. Plus 2y equals 6. So I circle my variable, I draw my line. because it's 3 times 0, guys, I'm just going to get rid of that. So now I'm down to a one-step equation. Is it the... Does that help a little bit? Okay.
No, I need it all the way off.
That helps a little bit.
Okay, so how do I get the y by itself?
Don't you divide both sides
By
by 2?
2. And then when you take 6 divided by 2, you get 3. Okay, so now I need to write this one as an ordered pair. So what did we say x was for this side? 0. And what did my y equal? So that's the first part of the lesson. Okay? There's going to be more things that we add into it. So that's example number 1. Okay? Let's take a look at example number 2. So example number 2, we're going to do the same thing here. So your new equation for example number 2 is going to be 2x minus 4y equals 12. So 2x minus 4y equals 12. We're going to follow the exact same steps as what we did for example number 1. Which means we're going to start with, and I would do it the same way every single time because when you repeat, it tends to stick more. So we're going to do y equals 0 on this left side, and on my right side I'm going to do x equals 0. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. I'm going to write that down first so I don't forget. Not only that, but when you take your quiz on Friday, this right here, writing this, will be 1 point. Okay. So now I come to my equation, and this time I'm going to solve by substituting 0 for y. So David, when I substitute 0 for y, what am I going to write on this left side?
You're gonna put 2x times 0. No, wait.
2x.
Oh,
Minus.
Minus 4y.
And what do I substitute for that y?
0.
Then what do I write? What's after my y?
Oh, equals 12.
Okay. So because I'm solving for the variable, I'm trying to determine what x equals, I'm going to circle my variable x. I'm going to draw my line of equality. Then because anything times 0 is 0, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that negative 4 times 0. That's going to cancel out. So now I have a one-step equation. I want to determine what this value of x is going to be when I get the x by itself. So Kaylin, you're right, but we never just tell an answer. You have to tell me how you got that. So walk me through it. How did you get the x by itself?
Divide 2 by each side, it needs to be 6.
Okay. So my 2's cancel. What do I bring down on my left side?
2, 6,
What do I bring down on my left side?
8.
And then on my right side, 6. You're right. Okay. Now I write my ordered pairs. Remember, ordered pairs go x, y. So what did x equal?
6.
And what's my y equal?
0.
And because it's an ordered pair, I have parentheses and a comma. Because that's the answer I'm looking for, I'm going to box it. So I don't need to box the x equals 6 because my answer is incomplete. I'm going to box my answer right there. Then we're going to go back to preschool and we're going to talk about what circles and boxes look like. All right. So now we did y equals 0. So now I'm going to come to this side and I'm going to use the same equation and I'm going to use x equals 0. So if I'm going to solve this equation, but this time for x equals 0, what would I write, Jaden?
2x.
Not, what am I substituting for x?
0.
So 2 times 0, keep going. Okay. And set up the equations. I circle my variable. I draw my line of equality. I get rid of the 2 times 0 because that just cancels. And now I want to get the y by itself. Now, that's a negative 4y. So because the 4 is touching the y, what does that mean to do? Okay, and the inverse operation, or the opposite of multiply, is divide. So I'm going to divide each side by what kind of number? -4. Take that negative with it. So on my left side, I have y equals, and then on my right side, I'm going to have to take 12 divided by -4. -3. So now I have an x value and I have a y value. So I need to set those two values as an ordered pair. So what's my x value? What's my x value?
Oh, what is like
0. And then what's my y value? So I write it as an ordered pair and I box it. Thank you. Do you want to walk Danielle down? Sure. And then her sticker ID. Did you write Danielle's sticker ID? Okay. Do you have it? Yeah. Okay. Oh, I didn't see it. All right. Let's move to examples number 3, 4, and 5. So example number 3. You have this graph, and next to it, you have a little box. The box says the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So if you're looking at your graph, the line that runs horizontal is your x-axis. Your y that runs vertical is your y-axis. So what it's asking you is, where does that where does that line intercept your x-axis? So x-intercept. So you're going to look at your x-axis, right? So we're looking at our x-axis. Where does this line cross my x-axis? Okay. So my x-intercept, so where that line crosses, is 2, right? Okay. Now the next part is asking for your y-intercept. So where does this line cross your y-axis? Yeah. So the y-intercept is going to be 1. So, we're not quite done though. So now I want an ordered pair for the x-intercept, and then I want to write an ordered pair for the y-intercept. Well, we know that the x value for the x-intercept is going to be what, you guys? What's the x value for the x-intercept going to be? 2. So if that's 2, the y will be what? Remember, we're making an ordered pair for the x-intercept. So if I go over 2 for my x value, but it's going to stay right here, what's my y value going to be for this one? Is it going to move anywhere? So it's what? 0. So my y value for this ordered pair for the x-intercept will be 2, 0. So if I start at my origin, I go over 2, I stay 0. Okay? So then my y-intercept, so if I know my y value, does my 1 go here or here? First or second? Where's your y value go? Second. So then what would my x value be? Yeah. So what you guys are going to find out today, that when we're using intercepts to graph, one part of the ordered pair is always going to be 0. All right. So you guys have lines, for example, 3. We just did. So you have lines graphed on example 4 and example 5. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and take a look at them. You do not need to write the ordered pairs. You only need to write
the y-intercept.
That's right. So you don't need to write the ordered pairs out. You just need to write what the y-intercept is and what the x-intercept is. So where did that line cross through the x-axis? And then where did it cross through the y-axis? So take about 1 minute to see if you can determine 4 and 5.
ain't right negative, right?
Say again.
Isn't if you go right is negative?
You mean left? So this would be right. That's positive.
Oh.
Left, negative. You're right. You are correct. Label your x and y axis. Label your x and y axis on your quiz.
So like this one,
Mm.
it was missing one.
No, it's not. We'll go through it.
Oh, but nah, I think I got it right.
I think you got it right too.
Right.
All right, so here we go. So the first thing I want is the x-intercept. So where does this line cross my x-axis?
Wait.
-2, right here. My x-axis
Oh, yeah.
is -2. Okay? So now our y-intercept, so look at our y-axis. Where does that line cross through on the y-axis?
+3.
+3.
Well, I say negative at the top.
So
No, it don't.
+3. Okay? Okay. Let's take a look at example number 5.
I don't think.
Or that was example 4. Now we have example 5. Okay, so example number 5, we're doing the same thing here. Hold on. Don't work ahead of me.
Because you go down.
Okay? So our x-intercept, where does my line cross through my x-axis? My x-axis. So where does that line go through on the x-axis? Okay, right there. It crosses the x-axis at this point right here, which is what? +1. So then we're going to look at our y-axis. Where does this line cross through the y-axis? Say it again. -3. Yeah.
I mean, I got that one right.
Good.
Yeah.
Ooh, sorry, that pink's real hard to see.
No, it's not.
Okay, we have a couple of notes that we're going to take at the bottom, and then we're going to flip over to the back. So for today, I want to get through the little note parts we're going to take at the bottom, and then examples 6, 7, and 8, and that's where we're going to stop for today. Okay? All right. So, looking through here, intercepts are where a line crosses and... So think about that. The intercept was where that line crossed through a what? Yeah, an axis. The next part here reads, the x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-intercept is where the line crosses through the what? The x-axis, yeah.
That is a rhetorical question.
Now, if you get this part right, I'm going to be real impressed with you. Okay. No, but before you start shouting things, I want you to really stop and think, though. What will always be true for the x-intercept? Now, besides the line crossing through the x-axis, what will always be true of the x-intercept? No?
I don't get it.
You give? So, what will always be true of the x-intercept? Y will always equal 0. Now think about what we did for our first problem. So example number 1, we set y equals 0, right?
Yep.
And we solved for x.
Yep.
So when we go to graph that, that'd be on the x-intercept. So when we wanted to solve for y, what did we set for x? Okay, so think about that when we go to this next part. So the y-intercept is where the line crosses the... So the y-intercept is where the line crosses the... Say it again. No. Yeah, the y-axis. Okay. So what will always be true for the y-intercept? Say it again, AJ. Perfect. So x will always equal 0 for the y-intercept. All right, flip them over. Let's look at examples 6, 7, and 8. I think you guys will like examples 6, 7, and 8. Examples 9 and 10 is where you're going to put everything together.
What you mean everything together?
That's a really good question. What I mean by putting everything together is meaning you're going to take solving the equation, and you're going to solve, and you're going to find the ordered pairs. Then with those ordered pairs, you're going to graph the x and y intercept. Okay, so example number 6, what you need to fill in on your notes. It says graph the line with the x-intercept equals 3. So next to the x-intercept, you're going to put 3. And the y-intercept, negative 4. So all you're going to do right here is just graph this. So think about it. If the x-intercept is 3, so let's label my x-axis, my y-axis. So if my y-intercept, or excuse me, if my x-intercept is positive 3, here's my x-axis, right? If it's going to be positive 3, I'm going to start at the origin, and which way do I go? Right. How many spots? 3. So my x value is 3. So I'm going to plot that on the x-axis because that's where that line's going to cross through the x-axis. That's where the line's going to intercept the x-axis. See? X-intercept, 3. Now, where's the line going to intercept on the y-axis? Down what? Yeah, so because I want it on the y-axis, because it's the y-intercept, I start at the origin and I go down 4. Now, my grid lines might be a little bit different than yours. I think I have more grid lines on my sheet than yours. But it should be very similar. So, when you are graphing a line, remember, I'm extra picky here. I want to see certain things. What's one of the expectations I want to see when we're graphing lines?
Your ruler.
Yeah, I want to see you using that ruler as a straight edge. That's one. Second one.
What you call them? Arrows.
Arrows? Say that. Is that what you're going to say, AJ? Your arrows? So that's 2. That goes with using the ruler. So straight line using a straight edge, an arrow. Can I just put my line like that?
No, you gotta make sure it connect.
Well, connect or go through your points that you plot, and you said it. Yeah, make sure you go to the end of each coordinate plane.
You can't do that though.
Oh, sure you can. Watch.
You got more numbers. You got 2 more problems.
That's okay. Okay, so if you notice, my line goes through both of the points that I plotted. Make that point a little bit bigger. My line has an arrow, and I used a straight edge. Now, the last part of my thing, or my directions and my notes say to label it A. So anywhere at the beginning or the end or the middle of this line, you're just going to write in A to show that's line A. So then we're going to do, ooh, that is, what? Oh my God. And I saw you use your ruler. How does that happen? AJ, that is like perfection. Oh, so you're saying, Ms. Lydica, when you grade my quiz, you can take mad points off. All right. Let's look at example number 7. So you're going to graph on the same graph that you already have. Okay? I get a new graph every time just because I'm special. Not really. Okay, so example number 7. You're going to fill in for the y-intercept, -6. Excuse me, did I say the y-intercept? For the x-intercept, -6. For the y-intercept, 6. And then you're going to graph it. And once you graph it, what are you going to label that line as? B. We already have an A, so we're going to label it as a B. So, the x-intercept, I start at the origin. Because it's on the x-axis, which way do I go? Left. So I go left 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to plot my point on the x-axis. That's where my line is going to intercept the x-axis, meaning it's going to go through the x there. You're going to do it on the same graph. You're in the right spot. I just get a new graph for each one. So now your y-intercept, so where that line's going to cross on the y-axis, is going to be +6. So to get a +6 on my y-axis, I start at the origin and which way do I go?
You go down.
Go up.
Up, because it's positive.
Negative.
Positive.
Oh.
And you have to pay attention. So I go up 6 for positive.
I messed up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why we're practicing. Okay? And then I'm going to draw my line according to the 4 expectations that we set last week. It goes to the end of each coordinate plane. It's straight. I put my arrows on it. And then I'm going to label this line B. Because example number 7 says to label it B. So now you have a line A on your sheet that you've labeled. And now you need a line B on your sheet that you labeled. So you're going to graph on the x-axis, the x-intercept, -6. So start at the origin. And if you're going to go -6, which way do you go? Yeah. So that's going to be your first point that you plot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right there. So you guys' point will be like right on the arrow. So then your y is +6. So you start at the origin and you count up, right? And then you're going to plot your point there. And then your line's going to go through these 2 points. And you're going to label that B. All right, let's look at the last one here that we're going to do today. So example number 8. What's different about this example as compared to the first 2?
You got X and Y.
Yeah, well, yeah, it has an X and a Y, but so did the other 2.
You got zeros.
Yeah, coordinates.
I think I know what you're trying to say. Not coordinates, but you have ordered pairs.
Or pairs.
So really, though, this is the same thing as what we did before. Because the x-intercept, we're only worried about our x value, right? And the y-intercept, we're only worried, hey, Mike, your head needs to be down. The only thing we're worried about is our y-intercept. So it's the exact same thing. It's just a different way of seeing it. So I'm going to start by labeling my axis. You guys has already labeled. So I'm going to graph my x-intercept. -3, 0. I start at my origin. Which way do I go for -3? For my x? Yeah, left, because this is my x value, right? So I go 1, 2, 3. My y is 0, so I stay right there. So I just plotted that point. So now I'm going to go to my y-intercept. My ordered pair is 0, -8. So I come to my origin. If my x value is 0, I don't move anywhere, do I?
Nope.
My y value is -8, so where do I move? Go down 8. Okay? From here, you're going to plot your line using the 4 expectations we talked about. And what do you label this line? C. So here's what I would like to do. It's 9:10. I'd like to keep getting through the notes because the further we get through the notes, the more likely you guys will get through the worksheet, which gives us more time, possibly at the end of the week, to continue watching the movie that we started yesterday. Okay? So that's my thought process. I'd rather get through the notes and possibly have some downtime to work on the movie. Okay. So now we're going to take examples 1 through 8 and we're going to combine them all together. But before we do that, we're going to fill out the bottom of our notes. Okay? So, bottom left part of your notes where it says y-intercept. This is going to be true for every y-intercept. We're always going to set x equals 0. Then we're going to solve. Please don't break my ruler, Mike. Then we're going to solve for y. The ordered pair, we know every time we find the y-intercept, x will equal 0. So then for the x-intercept, you're going to set y equals 0. You'll solve for x. And then you're going to write the ordered pair, something for x, and then the y will always equal 0. Okay. Example number 9. What I'm going to tell you, write small. Okay, write super small. I'm gonna borrow your paper. If you write big like me, and you want to put example 9 and 10, the equations on scratch paper, raise your hand. Mr. McFarland will come around and give you some scratch paper. But if you think you can squeeze it in there, that's fine. So when you go to write example number 9, you're going to want to write the equation right up next to where it says example 9. So you have enough room to solve. Okay, David, do you need that pencil sharpened? Why don't you sharpen that real fast? So, example number 9, the equation we're going to use is negative 4x plus 3y equals 24. The directions say determine the x and y intercepts for the following equation, which we did example number 1 and 2 today. And then we're going to plot the intercepts and then graph the line, which we did example 6, 7, and 8. So, here we go. The first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a line to separate my sides of my paper so I have room to work y equals 0 and x equals 0. Now, on example number 1 and 2, I told you the very first thing that you need to do is set your y equals 0 on your left side of your line, and then on your right side of your line, you're going to put x equals 0. That's going to help us solve for the y-intercept and the x-intercept. So when I solve for this equation the first time, I'm going to substitute for y. What am I substituting for y? Yeah, 0. So I'm going to come over here. You get this down? So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to rewrite my equation. Negative 4x plus 3y. What do I substitute for y? 0 equals 24. Okay? So all I'm doing is like what I did on examples number 1 and 2. I'm using this equation. I need to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. When I'm trying to find the x-intercept, I'm going to set it as y equals 0. The other one, for my y-intercept, I'm going to set x equals 0. So I'm going to have two equations I'm going to solve for. So I'm trying to figure out what this variable x equals. So I have an equation I'm trying to solve, a variable I'm trying to solve for. Now, like examples 1 and 2, anything times 0, I just get rid of, right? Because it's 0. So I don't need that. That's just extra work. So now my goal is to get the variable x by itself. Because that 4 is touching the x, it means to multiply, which the opposite or inverse is divide. So we're going to divide each side by what? Good job by saying negative 4. So on my left side, x equals, and then on my right side, what's 24 divided by negative 4? Negative 6. Okay. So, we're almost done. What do I need to get? What do I need to write down here to finish this side off? My xy, which is your ordered pair, right? So what does x equal? Negative 6. And what did y equal? 0. So that's your first answer.
So that's for example, no.
That's a third of it.
A third of it.
So now we're going to do the second part and then the third part. Okay, so the second part, this time we're going to solve this equation when equals 0. So what do I substitute for x? So I write the same equation, negative 4, substitute my x, and write the rest of my equation. So I'm going to circle my variable, draw my line. When it says times 0, what do I do with that? Get rid of it, right? It's probably my favorite part right there is just scribble it out. Now, I want to solve for y. I want to get the y by itself, so what do? Divide by 3. So y equals 24 divided by 3.
8.
Okay? I'm almost done. What's the last thing I need to do?
0.
Okay, I need to write, what's it called?
Your Y.
Your ordered pair. So my ordered pair, it's x, y. So what's my x value?
0.
And my y value? And then I'm going to box out ordered pair because that's my second part of my answer. Okay, 2/3 of the way done. The last thing I'm going to do is plot and graph the line. And then I'm finished. So, we know that this is x-axis. We know this is the y-axis. So I'm going to graph my first ordered pair here. When I'm looking at this, -6, 0, that's going to be on the x-axis. That's going to be the x-intercept. So I'm going to start at the origin. My x value is -6. Bye, Jeremiah. Which way do I go? How many spots? 6. Left. My x value is -6. And then since my y is 0 for that ordered pair, I stay put. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I plot that ordered pair. You don't have to make the check mark, but I'm just showing you that ordered pair is done. So then I'm going to plot this ordered pair. My ordered pair, the x value is 0, the y value is 8. So if my x value is 0, I stay put. My y value is 8, so what do? Go up 8. Don't pack up. I want to see this on your notes before you're allowed to go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you graph your line. So when I come around and I look at your note sheet, this is what your example number 9 should look like.